Welcome back to the Sportsbook Draft, where FanDuel's pick is in.
With the first pick in the 2025 Sportsbook Draft, FanDuel selects the Kentucky Derby.
Brilliant pick, as FanDuel becomes the first sportsbook app where you can bet the Derby.
Just a savvy move by a savvy franchise. New customers get a no-sweat first bet on the Kentucky Derby up to $500.
It's like they know each other.
What do you think Rob's saying to him right now?
Probably something about oats.
Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at a newly minted Grade 1 race on Kentucky Derby Saturday. It is the 9th, the American Turf, this one for the 3-year-olds going the mile and a 16th distance, and an oversubscribed field signed on for this one. 14 in the main body for also eligibles. Our analysis of this race and all of our Kentucky Derby coverage this week is presented by FanDuel, and FanDuel's got a promotion going on this week that you want to take advantage of. If you're a new customer, you can sign up and get a no-sweat first bet of up to $500. So you can make your first bet up to $500. If you win, you made a great score for however much you bet. But if not, you get that bet amount back into your account to keep playing. So find out more on the FanDuel site or on the app. Also this week, if you're going to be handicapping these Oaks and Kentucky Derby cards, well, what are you waiting for? Because there's a lot of work to be done. These are some tough races to go through. But if you haven't purchased your PPs yet, you want to check out one of these Kentucky Derby packages. You can save up to 39% of the value of everything you get here. It's not just past performances. You also get the betting strategies, player's guide, clock reports that Mike Welsh and his team put together to give you insights into how these horses are doing coming into these Oaks Friday and Derby Saturday cards. So find out more about that at shop.drf.com. Well, Mike, like I mentioned, this race is a new Grade 1 this year, and it's certainly attracted plenty of entries, as there are a lot of connections that are going after this pot as well as that black type. We can throw up the field for this race, and yeah, 18 entered, only 14 will get to participate, though.
Yeah, it's a good one. Listen, you put that Grade 1 on it, I guess, and everybody just wants to run it. I think this race, it used to get a big field all the time anyway, but now it's got some real quality to it. It's a wide open race. Trips will be super important in here because a lot of different horses could win this race.
Yeah, Mike, there's a 3-1 morning line favorite here in the number 3, New Century. This is not a race I would want to make a morning line for because it seems very muddled. Horses coming in from all different directions, not really sure who's in top form, some coming back off layoffs. So it's a really tough one to figure out. And I would imagine the money is going to be all spread around in here. To get a sense of how these horses might sort themselves out on the front end, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this American Turf. And, Mike, one thing I do think we can trust in is that the two horses that are shown first and second on the pace projector are probably going to be vying for supremacy early because both Mibago and Charlie's to Blame, the 4 and the 8, have a ton of early speed and have done their best running from the front.
Yeah, exactly. What I was trying to figure out, David, as I went through this race was, does Charlie's to Blame affect Mibago more, or does Mibago affect Charlie's to Blame more in this race? I mean, it's a really tough call for me because Mibago, if nothing else, he is wicked fast. And his races, they do not rate him. They let him go to the lead, and they just sort of let him roll and see how fast he can go for how long.
That's exactly right. He's quick out of the gate, and he really extends himself leaving the gate, so typically makes the others go fast if they want to try to go with him. And that could potentially set things up for one of the late runners who could be launching from the back of this large field. Let's go through these large group of runners in post-position order, beginning with the number 1, Warlander, a horse who's going to be a big price in this race, Mike. And this is the kind of race where you can make cases for big prices because it seems pretty wide open. And I think Warlander could be one of those horses. This horse showed talent during his 2-year-old season, was competing in a pretty tough maiden race on debut at Saratoga where he just missed, and then stepped up at Kentucky Downs where he met a pretty good rival in Flying Mohawk, a horse that we're going to see on the Kentucky Derby, but who I know you and I believe is a pretty good turf horse, and Warlander was able to fend that rival off. Didn't run as well in the Bourbon next time out, but was put away for the winter. Came back last time at Keeneland, and Mike, I just thought he got a nightmare trip in that allowance race. He was wide every step of the way, legitimately 4 wide on the first turn, again 4 wide to 5 wide on the clubhouse on the far turn, and just lost so much ground that he actually ran pretty well to only finish 5th in that race, losing by less than 4 lengths. I feel like that last race might be evidence that this horse has taken a step forward. And I like that they're pressing on to this tougher spot now that he's drawn a much better post position. Yeah,
I'm not going to really add anything to that, David. I just kind of want to let your analysis stand for this horse, because I just, if nothing else, I was conflicted about his 2-year-old form, and I feel like I could go either way on it. I know the Saratoga race became a live race. At the time, I didn't like that race at all, but it became a really, really live race. His only wins at Kentucky Downs, and I just can't give him too much credit for that. You're 100% right about his race at the layoff, though. He had a brutal trip that day.
The number 2, Scipio, is a horse that feels like one of the more reliable options in this field because you know what you're going to get from him. He's going to sit back early, make that late run. That's what he did last time in the Transylvania when he shipped to the East Coast from California, where he's been based for his entire career. And he ran pretty well, Mike, though I did think he got one of those typically excellent rides from Flavien Prat, saving ground on the turns, tipping out in the stretch. And to me, he just wasn't quite as good as test score.
I'm going to agree with that because I do think Test Score is a really nice horse. I would just say the one thing that I really like about Scipio is earlier in his career, it just seemed like he didn't have any speed at all. And you can see that, they ran him in 3 straight stakes races as a maiden, and he ran well in all of those races. Particularly the ones he didn't have a lot of pace at that time, and he was badly compromised in a couple of those races. Since the DeMille, this horse has been way more tactical. He got a perfect trip when he broke his maiden right up close. In the baffle, even though they cut him back, he sat right in range of that pace, always in hand, and he won that race easily. And I don't think they reverted to closing last time. He got bumped really hard at the start of that race and wound up way at the back. I think he gets a better trip this time from an inside post, and I think he's really dangerous.
He did definitely draw a great post in a large field. The number 3 is New Century, and he's the morning line favorite for this race. And I found him to be one of the tougher calls in this field, Mike, because he is a horse that got that big 93 Beyer speed figure for his victory in the summer last fall at Woodbine and got pace to close into that day. Beat some nice horses. I still feel like the figure assigned to that summer hasn't been replicated by many of the horses that participated that day. And he regressed 15 points when he lost the Breeders' Cup next time. I didn't even think he ran that badly in the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf after going 2 to 3 wide on the far turn and getting spun a little wider than some others who had success in that race. They went back to Europe after that. He tried a prep for the 2000 Guineas. There was a subsequent article that came out that the trainer that had him overseas was having all of the horses for Cutter Racing taken away, and this horse switched into the barn of Brendan Walsh recently. So it just feels like there's a lot of change, a lot of travel for this horse coming in here, and I didn't want to take him as the favorite.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, I don't ultimately, you're right that the morning line couldn't have been easy to make here. And I didn't think he was going to be the favorite, but maybe he will. He's a grade 1 winner with a 93 Beyer as a 2-year-old. So I'm with you. If he is the favorite, I don't really want him in here. Not suggesting that he has no chance. He's run some really good races.
The number 4, Mibago, is that likely pace setter, as Mike noted. He's quick out of the starting gate, and he really runs through that opening quarter mile. We'll take a look at his last victory, which came 2 back in the Colonel Liam at Gulfstream. And Mike, this was typical of him. He just got right out to the front end, opened up a clear margin on this field, and just never gave anybody else a chance. As you could see, even through the stretch, he is really extending that stride. I think the one vulnerability with him is that he does want to open up that clear lead. And we saw last time in the Transylvania, he had to work a little bit harder to get there, really extended himself in the first quarter mile, and then was left vulnerable to some closers late over a course that did have some give to it. And if there is rain on Saturday, that could potentially be a problem.
Yeah, that was one of the things I noted too. If it's not a firm turf, I mean, this is a horse who seems like he just wants to, he wants to go as fast as he can for as far as he can. I think maybe some cut in the ground could really work against him. But you're right. See, the Transylvanias, I was trying not to be too hard on him because they really did make him run to make the early lead in that race, and he was just on empty in the final furlong of that race. He's not for me against this field because I think there are too many other good horses in here that I didn't think he was going to wire this field. I still probably going to be holding my breath up the backstretch in this race.
Mike, I'm curious if you agree with me about this. The number 5 test score, he's 10 to 1 on the morning line. I kind of viewed him as the horse to beat in this race, and we'll take a look at his victory in the Transylvania last time, and you'll probably see why, because he beat a really strong field, a field that I don't think is that much weaker than the one that he's stepping up against here, even though that was a grade 3 and this was a grade 1. He didn't save quite as much ground as the second and third place finishers in that race. Not that he was super wide. You see other horses highlighted there include Maui Strong and Scipio, who finished second and third behind Test Score. But this runner has just been really good since they stepped him up into stakes company, was arguably best in a race at Del Mar on Breeders' Cup weekend last fall, and then didn't get pace to close into in the Kitten's Joy 2-back, still fired a big late run. This horse just puts in that reliable finish, and I think he fits really well against this group.
I agree with all that stuff. I mean, not only do I think he's the horse to beat in here, I thought he was the horse to beat in the Transylvania last time, and he went off at almost 10-1. He's just, you're right, he's just been good right along. He's had some really tough trips, badly compromised. Listen, he overcame big trouble to break his maiden, and then he was badly compromised in the 2 stakes races after that. He was really good last time. I also just really appreciate how much handier he was last time, getting himself into position, because that's really going to work for him going forward.
The number 6, Maximum Promise, is going to have some questions to answer on this surface because he made his debut on turf at Ellis Park, and it was just the debut race, but he was making a late run after falling pretty far back earlier. What was notable to me is how much early speed he possessed when he got on the dirt after that, and he ran a nice race on the dirt that day, subsequently ran well twice on synthetic earlier this year in some Kentucky Derby preps. Ken McPeak has been pretty vocal about the fact that he thinks this horse is extremely versatile with regard to surface, so much so that he was mentioning the Epsom Derby as a potential target for Maximum Promise. That is the way that Kenny likes to talk. But I think they're setting their sights on a more realistic target here in the American turf. I still think he'd have to improve a little bit.
Yeah, let's see if he can split the field in the American turf before we start talking about the Epsom Derby for this horse. I don't know. I did really like his dirt race where he showed big speed, and his other races to me are okay, but this to me looks like a really tough spot for him.
The number 7, Zulu Kingdom, I kind of felt might be the one that actually goes favor when all is said and done, just given the connections he's going out for. Chad Browd and Flavian Pratt, they typically do pull in a lot of money. But I also think this horse deserves real respect based on the last race that we'll take a look at here, the Columbia at Tampa Bay Downs. Mike, when you just watch the stretch run of this race, you might say this horse was a short price. He has to work pretty hard to hold off a challenger in the late stages. But I think the most important part of this race to appreciate is the early stages where he got some real pressure on the front end. There were 3 horses across the track that were just going toe-to-toe with each other through some legitimate fractions. They dropped away and finished nowhere. And one of those came back to win a stakes at Aqueduct last week.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. It's funny too, because I wasn't totally sold on this. He shipped over here and won his first 2 starts in New York, 2 stakes races. And I'll be honest, I wasn't totally sold on him. I thought he ran well in those races, but I wasn't totally sold on him. Since then, I've kind of totally turned around on him for all the reasons you mentioned off the layoff last time, even the Breeders' Cup, where I just hated the trip that he got in that race. And I still thought that he ran really, really well in there.
And if there is some given the ground, it's definitely not going to affect this Irish-bred son of 10 sovereigns. The number 8 is Charlie's to Blame, and he is that other speed horse that could be a problem for Mibago, who we already talked about. Mike, he beat a couple of horses we're going to talk about, one that we already did, Test Score and Maui Strong, who we'll get to in the Kitten's Joy 2-back at Gulfstream, and I thought ran pretty well that day. It's not like he was necessarily walking on the front end, but he's probably going to have to run faster here with Mibago in the race. And he did set a legitimate pace last time when they tried him on synthetic in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. He really paid the price in a race that did fall apart in the late stages. It's just kind of hard to view his winning trip in this race.
Yeah, that's what that was my big takeaway as well. I mean, I do like his turf form quite a bit, and you're just supposed to really be lenient for the race at Turfway last time, where he had to go way too fast on a totally different surface. His turf form is excellent, but there's a horse in here who is faster than him, I think, in the early stages, and I think it could really cost him.
Mike, I'm curious to get your take on the number 9, Jacos, because I know this is a horse that you've had some affinity for, and he did show a lot of talent early in his career when he first got on the turf last summer at Ellis Park. And while at first glance it might not seem like he's progressed at all since then, especially if you're just looking at the speed figures, he's had some excuses in his last few races.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, first of all, I don't care about the dirt races for him because I don't think he's a dirt horse, even though he ran okay on it a couple of times. He's not a dirt horse. We were just talking about the race at Turfway, the grade 3 last time on the all-weather. It was a race that fell apart with a really fast pace. This horse, to me, he was never in a comfortable position in that race. That trip never worked out for him. I actually thought that he ran really well in there, tried really hard down to about the 8th pull, before he finally got tired. And to me, he's just way better on the turf. I like all of his turf races. I think there's a good trip coming for him in here. He's a huge price on the morning line. I'm probably betting this horse.
The number 10, Iron Man Cal, ran really well the last time that we saw him in the afternoon. That was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race, and he was just second best behind Henri Matisse, a shipper from Europe for Aidan O'Brien, who did cover a lot more ground than he did. That's Iron Man Cal, who's highlighted first. Also in this field, the other horse highlighted in the shadow roll is New Century, who we already discussed. But Mike, this horse really fired a big late run once he found daylight in the stretch, and he's just run well in every single start since they stretched him out around 2 turns on the grass. Just has to deal with a layoff here.
Yeah, exactly. Layoff, and coming back off a layoff and facing a field like this one, that's not going to be easy. I mean, he will have to be 100% ready to go if he's going to beat this field. Maybe he will be, David. He ran really, really well at the Breeders' Cup the last time we saw him.
There are some bigger prices drawn in the outside portion of the starting gate. The number 11 Classic, of course, has had a lot of chances in his career, but he only just got on turf for the first time in his last race, and he ran pretty well to win the Cutler Bay at Gulfstream. But Mike, I think that was a weaker field than this one, and he's got some things to prove at this level.
Yeah, stepping way, way up in class for this. He's going to have to prove it to me.
The number 12, Golden Afternoon, is a horse that did show real ability on turf during his 2-year-old season, ran a sneaky good race when he was second in the Bourbon behind Minaret Station, who's been sidelined since then, but that was an honest pace, and he held on well for the runner-up spot. Mike, since then, his form has been a little up and down. They've tried some different things with him. I just wonder if he's really taken that step forward from 2 to 3.
Me too. I tried to leave him open too, because I do like some of his races, and I think he is going to be a really good price in this race. And as opposed to some of the other horses who have speed, he's not a horse who needs to be on the lead, I don't think, to be effective. So, I mean, there were things that I wanted to like about him. I wanted to give him a pass for the Transylvania last time, too, because he was very uncomfortable, very rank early in that race. And I think it just really cost him at the end. The race that I don't like is the race 2 back at the Fairgrounds. To me, he's supposed to win that race, and I don't like that he got beat.
And I do kind of wonder if he's going to be a sneaky pace player in this race, just given the jockey switch to Mike Smith. When you have a horse rated in the last race and then you make that switch to Mike Smith, I think it's sending the message you just want to go forward. And from this post, I won't be surprised if they do. The number 13 is Maui Strong. We already took a look at him in the replay of the Transylvania that we showed earlier. Mike, I thought he got a really good trip there. He was a little bit close to the pace. And as we said, it kind of fell apart towards the end as Mibago just went a little bit too quickly up front. But he got through inside of that rival and upper stretch and couldn't quite go with test score and Scipio at the end. That said, he still has been improving over the course of his last few races. And yes, he's been beaten by a few common rivals in here. I just wish that he had drawn a better post, because I would have liked to get interested in him if I could envision a better trip.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I agree. He's good, and he's getting better every time they send him out there. He can get any kind of a trip in a race and still run. I mean, there are things to like about this horse at a huge price. I wonder what kind of trip he can pull from post 13.
And the number 14, Megalodon, is another horse that's got some surface questions to answer. His one turf race was a debut, and it was a turf sprint, so maybe you don't want to be too hard on him for that. And he's improved in recent races, closed into a slow pace last time in the Rushaway. He's just stepping way up in class here.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really respect this trainer, but I can't bet this horse in this race.
Mike, any of the A's do anything for you? I know you've liked the number 15 Hammerhead in the past, but if they get in, they'll be stuck with a tough post.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Hammerhead. He was stuck in an outside post last time too, and he'll be stuck in an outside post again. I think this horse is way better than he looks on paper, and if he gets in, I'll try to get him in there somewhere.
Well, before we get to the picks, I want to remind everybody of that promo going on from FanDuel, who is presenting this video. If you sign up as a new customer at FanDuel, you get this no-sweat first bet of up to $500. If it loses, like I said, you get that back as a racing bonus. Let's go to our picks for this Grade 1 American Turf. And Mike, I think we're both going for some prices on top. You can see we each have a lot of respect for the 5 test score and the 7 Zulu Kingdom, but this feels like a wide-open race where you can build cases for horses that will be double digits. That's the case for the number 9 Jacos.
Yeah, exactly. He's just too big a price for me. And I do think this is his surface. I think he's better than he looks on paper. I'm going to have to give him a chance in here. The 5 and the 7 to me are probably the 2 horses to beat, and I'm not like way against them. I'll be interested to see how they actually bet this race and how they sort themselves out as far as odds go. I'm definitely using the 2 also, David Scipio. I think that horse fits really well in here. I think there's a good trip coming.
And I'm just hopeful that that last troubled trip for the number one Warlander is a signal that he has really moved forward from 2 to 3, and it might not be so apparent to a lot of players. And he did draw a great post position down towards the rail for a horse that's going to be a big price. 1-5-7-2 for me and 9-7-5-2 for Mike in race 9 at Churchill Downs on Saturday, Derby Day. It is the Grade 1 American Turf. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.